rapidly.
What happened?
Wow. Scary. Yeah, how are you?
We good, Peter. All right.
Good.
Anybody else coming?
So, Nathan Carlin told me he was going to come.
Okay, welcome everybody. If we could stand up with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We keep standing so that we can say a prayer, Alex, if you could please.
Lord, first and foremost, we want to thank you for allowing us the opportunity and the privilege to be before you today. We ask that you watch over us with respect to our health, those that are amongst us and our family members, as well as those that have been affected by the devastating hurricane that we just had to face over the land. We also ask that you provide us with the guidance to deal with the many different situations or issues that we may be faced with today, and that you help guide us to make the best possible decisions that we know both affect all the citizens that live around the park, those that visit us, and the employees that contribute to the city. Thank you.
I nominate Alex to do this every year.
That was very nice. Obviously, you had to change it every month. So start right.
Okay, if we could have a roll call, please.
Jose Gale, Bayfront Park Management Trust.
Christina Bellamo, Bayfront Park Management Trust.
Mary Lugo, Bayfront Park Management Trust.
Alexander Catanas, Bayfront Park Management Trust.
Steve Newport Trust.
Ralph Duarte, Bayfront Park Management Trust.
Marie Lewis, Bayfront Park Management Trust.
Raphael Suarez, Rebus, Office of the City Attorney.
Jeff Roy, City Commissioner, Bayfront Park Management Trust. Okay, we're now in item number 2, discussion of trust finance. Item 1.
Thank you, Commissioner. In front of you, you should have the financials for August 2018. And if you look at page 1, at the bottom, you'll see a negative change in net position of $7,267. Same time period last year, August 2017, we had a negative change of $69,265. And we are in a little bit more in the positive this year because of parking revenue, of all things. Now, if we go to page 11, this is the 11-month period ending August 31st, 2018. And you'll see at the bottom for the year, it's a positive change in net position of $55,419, as opposed to last year, where we had a positive change of $902,349. And we can attribute that to the rolling loud event of 2018, and also hurricane expenses, of which in this fiscal year we are at, in the previous fiscal year, 17-18, we expended $465,939,000. Let me repeat that, $465,939. All right, and now there were no events to report in August for profit and loss. We go to page 21 and 22. It's our balance sheets, and we'll start with 21, which shows our assets. We have a cash balance of $3,971,656. Total assets of $10,555,131. That includes fixed assets. We look at page 22, our liabilities are, that's liabilities and equity, 10,555,131, and that balances with our assets. Page 23 is the arrearage report, which we'll come back to. And the last page is the statement of cash flows with a cash ending balance of $3,971,655.70.
Motion to approve as a whole.
There's a motion, there's a second for discussion by Mr. Meeking.
Yeah, I just have a question. The overtime payroll and maintenance, it's a lot of money. It seems like we can almost hire 2 people for that.
Yes, overtime and maintenance is down from last year, let me just first say. And we've had, some of those hours can be attributed to hurricane response and hurricane repair.
Last year or this year?
This year, for fiscal year, last year 17-18.
So that begs the question, why was that? So how much is it? 90,000 for the 11 months?
For,
Maintenance overtime, payroll overtime.
give me a moment and we'll look at that real quick. Okay, that is going to be on page, I'm just looking at,
Under the maintenance department.
look at it for the year. It's going to be on page 18. Maintenance department overtime, $68,650. Same time period last year, $89,383.
It's just worthwhile looking into. Maybe we can
Absolutely.
pick up an extra person and be more efficient.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you.
Need a second?
Further questions? You seconded. Alex made the motion. Is there
Second.
any further questions or discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Commissioner, if I may continue, we'll look at the arrearage report on page 23. And all those items are current, so they all have been paid.
Okay. All right. Let's move on then to 3 approval items, minutes from September 25th, 2018 board meeting.
Motion to approve as a whole.
The motion to approve, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Marie. Motion's made by Alex. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Approved unanimously. Consent agenda. 1, resolution 18059. 2 is resolution 18060, and 3 is resolution 18061. Any questions from the board on any of these?
With regards to 18-061, the expense is just for the removal, correct? There hasn't been something budgeted for the replacement of the tree?
For the replacement, no. The tree is in, this year will be its 14th year that we have had it as an asset, I should say. And its longevity is anywhere between 15 and 20 years. So we look at it every year to see how it's lighting and so forth. So as of this moment, we did some electrical work last year to the tune of about $3,000 instead of replacing the tree, which will cost us a good bit, about $85,000.
Yeah. Okay. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Moved by Alex, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ralph. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Pass unanimously. Okay.
Approval agenda.
Yeah, the approval agenda of additional resolution 18-062. 18-062. Approve selection of vendor for the installation, storage, and breakdown of Bayfront Park holiday tree pursuant to invitation for bid number 900384. Is there a motion for approval? Motion by Mary. Second by Alex. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Passed unanimously. Item 4,
Thank you, Commissioner. We just had one event on the docket that needs the board approval, and it's the Gary Nader Art Exhibit, which we do between 2nd and 3rd Streets here on the field. And it coincides with Art Basel and also with our holiday tree lighting that we do every year.
What do we get paid for that?
We get $100 a day from Mr. Nader, $10,000 damage deposit.
$100 a day?
Yes, sir.
Did I hear that right?
Yes, sir.
Well,
About eight Botero statues that are planned for this year.
well, that's beautiful. But $100 a day. How do we get Mr. Nader to be able to present statues, and maybe someone else that might want to present some statues doesn't get to do it for $100 a day?
Anyone can come forward, Commissioner, and present their...
Well, but does anyone know? How long has Mr. Nader been doing this work?
on and off since 2010.
What is it? What does he do? What does he put on display?
He puts on display large monumental sculptures.
Monuments to who?
This monumental size. So
Okay.
this year it's, Botero, and a Botero exhibit.
How much space is he taking for how many days?
It is approximately 3 weeks.
3 weeks.
Yes.
And how much space is he taking for $100 a day?
They're roughly a 4 feet by 4 feet square area.
Yeah, but you can't judge it by the 4 feet by 4 feet. You gotta do it by square feet.
Sure.
Where he's got it lined up, from one end to the other, you add up, one side to the other, and that's how you get your square feet, which is really what you need to count.
Sure.
Now, I know that, there's been parties here that I haven't been part of, but there's a lot of people that have art in this community, and would be more than happy if they knew that they could expose it here for $100 a day. Maybe they'll want to give us $101 a day. But I think this is one that we need to really put up for a quick request for proposal. I think this is my opinion. I mean, this is not a one-time deal, is it? This has now become an annual event, and I just have a problem with it. 2010, it's 8 years. Doesn't he have room? I think he's got some kind of museum or art gallery or something that I don't know what it is.
Yes. It's on 21st Street, and these sculptures live outside his building.
What my opinion is that we need to put this out to bid to see if there's anybody else who wants to put in sculptures. See what people are willing to pay for it. I think for $100 a day, it's wrong for us to keep doing this year over year. That's my opinion.
Do we have anything in writing with him?
At the moment, no. We're waiting for this to be approved.
So why don't we just tell him we want more money? I mean, he's doing it for commercial purpose,
Sure.
not doing it out of the generosity of his heart.
What do we usually charge others for a similar space? The police sometimes will say that it's 4 feet by 4 feet per statue.
We'll look at what we've charged them in the past, or what we've charged in the past, Commissioner. We'll come up with a better...
Well, bring it to us at the next meeting. We still,
This one,
what time is our vessel this coming year?
our fossil is in the first week of December. So he was looking to put these up November 19th to have them up for our, holiday tree area.
First meeting November is when?
The 27th. Yes.
Well, let's assume he didn't put them up. How does it hurt the park?
It doesn't.
So why don't you just tell him it's gonna cost him $500 a day? He can afford it.
Let's see, if you're gonna, right, I mean, it's policy, and all I wanna say is that if you're gonna convey something that you're not gonna delegate to the director to come up with a fee, you should have a fee, if you all decide on it, you're gonna convey it, it's X. So it's clear what is being requested.
So,
You want X or?
what do you want us to do?
Look,
I'd like you to have an amount that you direct, by motion or by accord, the director to request.
21 days, you said?
Yes, it's
Well,
21 days.
Marie? Don't throw it at me. I'll make a motion for $1,000 a day, and that we put a request for proposal for the following year. And that you bring this up to us in November, so that we can put it out for the next 5-year period. And the commission can approve it or less. People want to do it for 1 year. You put in the RFP, if it's 1 year, each year we can approve it. If it's for 5 years, then the commission approves it, and they can choose.
Second.
There's a motion for 1,000 a day. There's a second.
By
All right, by Alex.
Alex.
Is there any further discussion? Hearing none. And we have our roll call, so that people can.
Marie,
Yes.
Ralph,
Yes. Yes.
Stephen,
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Hey,
Be gentle. Thank you.
Actually, you were assuming her role as chairperson.
What?
You were assuming her role as chairperson when you asked.
Anyway. We now have the number 2 on item 4, Museum Park, FBC split, RFP review.
thank you, Commissioner. In your packet is a revised RFP. You all looked at this last month and made some suggestions, and I want to thank Raphael for spearheading this. Those changes are in the RFP, which includes a change to the term, initial year term of 10 years with 3 5-year options to renew. There is a revised section on fee proposal.
The RFP for 10 years, 3 5 years, you're not going to get anybody better than that. I mean, I'm being blunt. We might as well have put it out for the 10 years and 3 5 years, because for the kind of investment that anybody's going to make there, for whatever they come up with, no one's going to bid on that during such a short time. So I am a little bit enough that we come up with some reasonable times, but I would say no less than 50 years, and then, maybe multiple 10-year extensions.
That's the current thinking and what the city is doing anyway, as far as the leases. Which makes sense, you need to get a return on the investment.
And I want to be clear, look, we might use some of that money for something that we need, but the bulk of that money, if not all of it, is going to be a pass-through from us to the city. That is city property. We're just the caretakers of it. Beginning this fiscal year that just passed, and starting into this one, the city needs all the money we bring. Not to mention the next fiscal year. We recently approved another one of the closed contracts, the firefighters. And we're still working on the police. And in order for us to finalize those contracts we're going to be digging in even deeper into the reserves that we have. Not in the regular general fund budget, but the reserves. And we're going to be facing a big one comes early next year, which is the judgment on a suit that the city lost for Flagstone. And who knows how much that's going to be. That's not even including that what we're already been told for a fact that we're going to have a deficit for the following fiscal year. And I have to assume that there's probably even more than is there. But, the bottom line is that whatever we approve here, the City of Miami Commission is going to have to approve this. It's going to be more than 1 year. So but the part of tell us how to change it up here. I would put a 50-year lease with 3 10-year options.
So if you're making that as a motion to amend the proposed RFP to change the proposed term to a 50-year initial term with 3 10-year options to renew, that's a total possible term of 80 years. So
The lease, the RFP that went out of the Virginia Key Marina, that was for how many years?
that was for 50 years with renewals that I believe, that I can't remember frankly, Commissioner, they were either 10 or 5, but there were a few renewals.
There were numerous.
Yeah, there were numerous renewals, correct.
The main part was 50 years.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so this is in that same spirit of what's been tested already.
And that would be, right, a motion to, just, the direction of the board to change the terms from 10 to 50 years, and for 3 10 years options to renew. Options to renew normally are exercised by mutual agreement, and the operator cannot be in default. They have to be in good standing. And I'll just add, since you asked me, that of course, not just commission approval, but per the charter, this will require a referendum approval. It's not mentioned in this memo, but it is required by the charter.
I don't like that language on mutual agreement, because then you're renegotiating the lease every 10 years. We should go back and see what Joe just mentioned at Virginia Key. We should go back and see what it says there and probably follow it. A mutual agreement means it's not an option. You have to agree to disagree or agree.
Again, maybe let me just be totally clear. The option to renew, it's requested by the operator, the city accepts it, it doesn't mean a renegotiation.
Okay.
What it means is that they have to ask for
Gotta
it.
give
We have to
notice.
agree, right, and they can't be in default. If
Okay.
they're late on their payments or they don't have their insurance, they're not gonna be renewed. That's what I was trying to say, okay?
Fair enough.
Before we make this to an amendment to see if there's anything else that we have to lead or add, what's going to be expressed of the key points by the executive director, and then maybe there are some areas that any one of you might have looked at that you'd like to discuss or make the changes on.
Thank you, Commissioner. We'll look at fee is the next item that was changed. There's an option, I shouldn't say an option, there's a designation for a flat monthly fee and a percentage of monthly gross receipts guaranteed at the FSC slip. There are termination rights for convenience, so that's another thing that was in there. And you all asked to make sure that the RFP included the right to accept or reject any proposal, and that is
That's
certainly.
right, that's right.
The flat monthly fee, it's going to be difficult. We should put in there exactly what the minimum fee or rent, whatever the heck it is, a month that we want, then there's percentages on top of that.
Well, that is the most common way of doing and structuring these deals, the way you described it.
say we should have a minimum annual guaranteed rent fee, whatever terminology you want to use, and percentages.
Well, I would begin with a minimum annual guarantee rent of beginning. I know if $5 million is going to be too much, but that's what stimulated me to bring this forward when I heard those numbers. If anybody wants to start with less and hope to get more, it's fine, but I think this has to be a high number here.
Has there been a study conducted as to the market value in Virginia Key, similar arrangements?
You're looking at two different points altogether. What happened in Virginia Key, the city said, this is what we want. Here, we're asking people to come up with their own ideas to be creative. So, you know, it's hard to judge it that way. Once they give us that, then we'll certainly, you know, do what you're saying and figure out, you know, what the market rate then would be based upon what they presented to us. And then we negotiate rates from there. But right now, we're leaving it open for anything that anyone wants to present, as long as it's not going to be noise related or ultra underwater or something of that nature that is going to be different than what I think we want to see here.
Should we do an appraisal to establish, based upon various uses?
I think we're wasting our monies now because we don't know what someone's going to come up with. The appraisal, I think, for market value, make sure that we're getting the amount that would be fair to us, should be done after we get something.
Well, the charter says that anyway, doesn't it?
Well, you
Appraisal?
have to do that afterwards, so that's another reason why it doesn't make sense to do it now.
How much space are we talking about? The whole slip?
Also,
I think $5 million would be very low. We're talking about 40,000 a month. I mean, a store.
No, we're talking.
Oh, 40. 400.
There better be somebody out there with an exotic use. That's a lot of money.
400.
We're not getting that on anything now.
That's a huge slip, guys.
Yeah.
You have about
How many acres are there?
If I remember correctly, it was somewhere between 9.5 acres.
How many books can you have?
1,000 feet by how many? What was that?
It's 1,000 on each side by about 250.
It's a
A
quarter of a
little more than
square feet.
1,000 on each side.
That's 6 acres.
How many books can you fit in?
Well, again, it depends on what plan they put in, how big of boats they want. You know, that would vary.
Durham has a 100-foot restriction.
Okay, so it's correct.
And
Well, that doesn't mean that can't be changed, but that's difficult.
absolutely.
The RFP, of course, like all of them, would be subject to compliance with all applicable regulations, including Durham, Shoreline Review Committee, permitting, zoning, etc.
Army Corps of Engineer probably had something to do with it.
Army Corps of Engineers as well. So you have, the board has asked for the minimum annual guaranteed rent to be, obviously that's a minimum, it could be better, $5 million per annum. Was there any discussion about whether you wanted to include, just in case,
But whatever it is, I think we should have it, in my opinion, anyway, we should have it stated in the OFB, so people know what they're bidding on, so they can do the financials.
If we put $5 million, which might be high, I don't know. You're looking at $416,666.666. .667.
Gotcha.
So that's what you're looking at for a month. And
He's way up at the linear foot. The linear foot.
even by the linear foot, it's hard because you can stack up things in so many different ways that, you know, so if you don't want to go with a minimum that's so high, you go with a lesser one and see what comes in. But,
It's a lot of money.
it's a lot of money, but you don't want to give it away.
No,
This is
no.
one of a kind. Right in the smack heart of downtown Miami. You know, next to an area that supposedly, if we're to believe what we get from the county, some 23 million people come by here every year. Anybody wants to throw out a number that you'd like to see as the minimum amount that we wanted to bid?
And we can't even do it by use because then it'll be all over the place.
Well, the use is, you know, they're gonna come and tell us
Wide
what
open.
they do. The only thing that I would include in there, and be very specific, Raphael, that anything that anyone bids on, it is their total responsibility to go out and get any and all permits and
Approvals,
approvals,
permits.
everything.
Yes, that is stock language we have, but certainly it's very, very significant in this. Yeah, approvals, permits, governmental consents, agency consents, and we normally have that.
Look, I would say that we go with minimum 3 million, it's 250,000 a month, no less than, and let's see what happens.
So it's a minimum of either by acclamation or by vote. It's 3 million as opposed to 5 million, the minimum annual guarantee per annum, right? Let me, as you vote on this, let me just mention one procedural thing as a matter of protocol. The chair correctly said that this commission will need to approve this because it's multi-year and referendum. But it's incumbent on me to tell you, because you may not know this because this is sort of a separate agency. Normally, what the procurement practice has been the last few years is that any significant RFP will go to the commission prior to issuance. And I would certainly recommend that you do that here. Okay?
Well, why has that been the policy in procurement something like this?
The policy has been, and I cannot speak for the director or for the administration, but I think this has been to avoid commissioners saying they were unaware of things, that this was a major decision, that they didn't know about it, that they were in the dark.
Well, you're going to have one commission that's going to say it anyway. I don't think the others will.
Well, I'm not telling you.
Well, look,
Right.
we've been kicking this can around for a while. At this point in time, is something that if you were going to be giving us that opinion, you should have said it to us from the beginning.
Right. Well,
We
you're
basically have had the city staff do most of the work on this, I believe. Am I correct in that effect? So if commissioners want to change something, if we see anything that comes in that's worth approving, then they can deal with it after we approve it here at that level in the negotiation. But I'm not going to be wasting any more time waiting for a weak wannabe strong mayor to then make decisions on what to do, not to do, and then he did it. All that I care about is bringing extra money to the city of Miami. But frankly, not too many people give a damn in bringing money to the college. They only worry about spending it.
No, I understand, and I'm not telling you it's legally required, I thought it would be now, that's up to,
let me
chalk
ask
it
you a
up to me,
question.
because
Are
you're
we-
approving it now,
Are
so.
we here for any other reason to say, okay, we can spend $200 next month on light bulbs? That's a bunch of
No,
baloney.
you're here on things as well, I'm just telling you, look, I would not be doing my job.
But we
if I
already
didn't
went
advise-
through this. We already went through this, if we could do it, I guess, subject to the commissioner approval, I guess.
Well, listen, if
It-
they get a
no
deal
bounds
in their
about-
hands,
It is,
Roselle.
by law, it is required that you have commission approval.
Okay.
I have no doubt about that, okay? I want to be very
And
emphatic
there's
and
been,
clear.
Rafael, there's been no doubt about that here.
All I'm telling you,
We've been saying this all this time. But what I'm a little flabbergasted in hearing is, after we've been discussing this all this time, that you bring this up, and look, I don't give a, baloney piece on what anybody in the second floor thinks.
right,
This is for the city of Miami. And if they don't like it, it's too bad. They should have said something.
well, what you're allowed, so all I meant to say was that it's been the protocol. You're not the city, you're not the
Well,
exact
okay,
city, you know,
okay,
so.
the protocol, who's done something like this before? Give me the protocol.
Well, normally, for example.
No, not normally, tell me who has done something in the fashion that you're suggesting, which is not what we have to do, what you're suggesting. Who's done it?
The Department of Procurement.
Of course, the Department of Procurement does it for the city. But you said the protocol is for the commission to deal with it first, and for somebody to bring it to the commission first. Now tell me, who has done that before in something like this, we're putting it out?
I just meant it's a major RFP, so I'm not telling you it's legally
Well,
required.
so you don't have any legal precedent that's been done before. Well, I'm going to give you the only legal precedent that's there, and you saw how it ended up, and that's why I brought it over there, so we will get the blame on it. And that was with Oakland, but that's a whole different story. So if it's going to become even a problem now,
No.
when we're trying to find new fund money for the city, that the city hasn't even thought about doing anything with that property, except, let Mickey use it, and I don't know who else, for chump change. I'm sorry, but I appreciate your opinion and your suggestions, but we're going to move forward.
Right, I'm not telling you it's legally required, I'm just, what's required is that they approve the agreement.
And we've been saying this all along, so that's not an issue whatsoever.
Okay, all right.
Anyway, we're back at discussing what the minimum amount that we're going to ask for someone to bid. I'm willing to bring it even back to $3 million a year, it's $250,000 a month. And maybe we could make a motion in this issue before we move on with any other areas that we have to look at. Is there a motion for a minimum of $250 that we accept?
Motion for minimum of 250.
So motion,
Second.
second. Any discussion on the minimum of $250?
I personally would like, as a board member, just to see some comparative information of what other similar properties have done.
The closest that you could have, and again, there is no comparison because you're asking people to bring you ideas and suggestions there. So you're not comparing apples to apples, oranges to oranges. But on the Marina Virginia Key, I believe the minimum that he's talking about is 2,200,000.
No, but plus the percentage is based on sales.
With the percentages, it brings you up to $3 million all over it.
Yeah, 3.
And how does the size of that marina compare to what we have here? How much can they dock there?
That's a big range.
It's larger than this space, correct?
Yeah, but I would agree with you 100%. but you never know what other use someone can come in and make the big dollar and therefore pay us big dollar. The problem we would run is if no one bids it, then we have to reconvene and sharpen the pencil a little bit.
That breaks down to $8,333 per day. So that business is not one that I'm very familiar with, but I don't know if that's a sustainable figure to even ask.
Well, we're gonna find out real quick. I will tell you that, one of the people, that's when I got the idea of doing this, that came to me, they were interested in paying us $5 million a year. Is that real, is it not? I don't know, we're gonna see now. And, this is open, no games at all, so anybody in the world can come in and bid in this. This is not loaded up for anybody.
I think what we do is, can we put this on the fast track?
Well, I can only tell you that the law department, as always, will respond very expeditiously. I'm not in charge of procurement, I'm not in charge of real estate, and I'm not in charge of marine. So I suggest you direct that question to
Forgive me
staff.
for laughing, it's
Okay.
not directed. My point is, if we can, the sooner we get it out, the sooner we'll find out where we're at. And if we have to reconvene, we'll reconvene. But we need to send out the balloons first.
Well, let's try to get over at 250. There's a motion, there's a second. It's acceptable, 250 a month, $3 million a year to this board. That's the minimum that we will accept. So we could then go over the rest and put this up. There's a motion, there's a second. Is there any further discussion on that? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any nays? No nays?
Nay, only because I would like more information.
Okay. There's one nay. Any others? Okay, it passes 7-1.
And you change the term to 50.
Well, what we were voting on now was just the 250 per month, $3 million a year month.
Right.
Let's go through the remaining key parts of this lease that anybody might want to make any changes or additions. And then we'll include the 50-year, 2 or 3 10-year options.
Okay.
And then we could hopefully vote for the rest of it altogether. I just wanted to get by the hump of what amount we're going to ask, because that's the key part. Without that, we're, kind of wasting our time and everything else.
Okay.
What's that? What else stands out to you that you want to bring out? And
I'll reiterate the goals of this, as Commissioner stated, is to have it as broad and open to any proposer that would like to submit a proposal. The other thing is criteria points on how each proposal gets reviewed, and proposers' relevant experience, qualifications, past performance, and related projects is 35%, and this is on a 100-point system. Development, management, and operational plans and approach is 45 points. Fee proposal is 20 points, so that totals 100. So each proposal will be evaluated on such criteria.
No minority participation.
Or local.
I believe-
all that, I think, can be negotiated afterwards before we sign a lease with them. The part that I think that, frankly, is way too low is the fee proposal. The fee proposal is important, especially if they're going to put, which I want to include here, a big chunk of change to guarantee this deal. I intend to do something similar, like we did with what we approved recently on the docket here, that they pay up front $300,000. I'm not talking about $300,000 over here. I'm talking about a percentage that would be in comparison to whatever we get in a yearly fee. I think the fee proposal needs to be higher. If you all want to go a third, or if you think the fee should be more, I mean.
What do you mean by that? You
Well,
mean
look,
money up front on an annual basis?
not only money up front on an annual basis that is going to be required from anyone that we choose, but the biggest amount of money that we're going to get. Because if we're going to not go for someone that's going to give us the biggest fee, and I'll give you an example. Somebody offers $5 million, and then somebody else offers $3 million. Right now, the way it's structured, the $5 million only gets 20%. So let's say the one that offered $3 million has a little more experience in a few other areas and qualifications in other projects. We're going to give them more, so they can conceivably easily win this, paying us $2 million less a year. And that doesn't add up to me. I don't know if it does to the rest of you now. So I would like to put a high 50% in fee proposal and 25 and 25 on the other. Or at least 30 on development, management, and operational plan approach, and 20 on relevant experience, qualification, and past performance related projects.
What are you asking for the fee proposal?
Well, on the fee proposal, I want to give it 50%.
50%.
Yeah. Then the development, management, operational plans and approach, give it 30%. And the first proposal, relevance, experience, and qualifications at 20%. And look, as you all can see, I haven't micromanaged this. I've left it up to staff and procurement and so on to try to work it out. And that's why I'm making the changes here. All that I want is to try to bring the most that we can for the city. And if we can use some of it to, better these parks, all the better too.
I guess my problem with the fee proposal being at 50, it goes back to the fact that it boils down to how much you're giving, but not really their qualification.
Well, if you're putting qualifications at 20 in the development, management, operational plans approach, that's pretty strong. You're really putting 1 and 2. It's like almost 1 that we divided into 2 parts. We're giving that 50%. So we're really giving 50% for fees and 50% to the others.
Yeah, but a 50% fee almost guarantees success, if you think about the mathematics of it.
Not necessarily. Not necessarily.
What do you mean guaranteed success?
Well, there's only 100 points, so the person who,
Right, that's, yeah,
gives us the highest fee,
that's who's gonna win.
someone else could get the other two 50%, but not have the fee, so then it's a standoff.
Yeah.
And if I may, I don't want to get into policy, but I just want to remark that as a point in procurement, normally the fee, you can make it higher, you can make it a more significant point allocation, but when you have the fee so robust that it's overarching everything else, then you get into the issue, is it a bid that is driven by price, and price only, the widget, as opposed to an RFP, which is supposed to be mixed.
Is a third, and a third a reasonable structured vote?
Well, all I can tell you is that when it's, that's up to the board, that's up to the board and the officials, but all I can tell you is that when one is so much more robust than the others, it's, somebody might call that out.
Well, for me, I think the development is key. Having that have the highest points, because that's gonna tell you what the use is, So I think it's important to know what the use is, how they plan on operating, and, I don't know, that to me should be the highest.
compromise keeping the fee, one of the highest priorities that we're looking at, if maybe having the fee at 40 while keeping development still a priority between 1 and 2, maybe we can entertain the thought of 40 on the fee, 35 on development, and 25 on number 1, proposed relevant experience qualifications. And that might be more of a happy medium.
25, you're saying? On the
25 on point number 1, qualifications, experience, 35 on development management, but it won't overreach the 40%.
I would accept that, 25, 35, and 40.
At least if one person wins the other two and doesn't win the fee, they theoretically win.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, the fee is what?
Because we have a minimum anyway.
40, yeah.
40?
Yeah, 25, 35, and 40. 40 would be for fees, 35 for development, and 25 for experience, qualifications, past performance.
I'll vote for that.
Second.
Okay, there's a motion from Alex, there's a second from Mr. Neesworth. Before we move on, I want everybody to express themselves. And wait, any more.
I guess because I've been on set before, and I've lost because of the fee. I mean, you know, because somebody been, it's not my preference, so.
But it's pretty close to where you're asking for. And I think what we're all basically in agreement at, that number 1 should be the one we put the least amount.
Absolutely.
And I'm in agreement with that too. So, anyway, and this particular one, there's a motion, there's a second. Here's no further discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Okay, this is unanimous. We've got another one that we got out of the way. Let me do one more to get out of the way. That's another key point. And that's how many years. We're talking about minimum 50 years. I'm open, for whatever amount of extensions, 4 by 1, but if we don't give at least 50 years, we're not going to get anyone, not even dividends. So I may mention to do 2 or 3 10-year extensions, but I'll open it up to this board to suggest anybody else.
I think 50 years to start with. No?
That's what the investments that people make it.
What's the investment?
We don't know. We don't know what the idea they're coming with. Whatever idea people come up with.
You guys,
If the investment is not too much and you're already committed to 50 years, you're stuck.
well, you've got Grove Bay, which is a total of an 80-year lease. You got Virginia Key, which I think is 75.
Yeah, but you know what it's
But you gotta get your initial investment, so
But
then
the
you don't bid it, or you bid whatever you want to bid, let the best person win.
And then even if somebody bids and we don't like it, we don't have to accept it. So I think 50 years is reasonable.
Okay. I think we're okay in 50 years. How many 10-year extensions do you want to give? 2 or 3? 3? Okay. Is there a motion for a 50-year lease with 3 10-year extensions? Motion by Haysbert, second by Suarez Melendez. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, there's no nay. Okay, we've got the 3 big ones out of the way. What else do we have here that we need to discuss? Do you think are big points today?
Everything else, Commissioner, is pretty much boilerplate. The big things, as we've already mentioned, is the accepting or rejection of the proposals.
Right.
And we've talked about that in City Commission approval and referendum. And those are really the largest points.
Excuse me. I want to just go back to what Mr. Nico mentioned about the minority participation, and I mentioned the local participation. We
Yes.
brushed over it. I just want to make sure that the language is there.
Yes, it's on page 53, and it's the last page. What they do is they do the 100-point scale system, and then if
Hearing no further discussion, is there a motion to approve the RFP for drive? A motion by Mary Lugo, second by Alex. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
There's no nays. Approved unanimously. Okay, director's report, Bayfront and the Scenes Park, as amended.
Thank you.
General reports and discussion.
Thank you, Commissioner. Just want to touch base, we are interviewing for the finance director position. We've had 2 interviews and a third one this week. So those interviewing are Karen, Philip of HR, myself, and Richie Blum from the Commissioner's Office sits in on the interviews as well. And they've been somewhat favorable so far, the 2 interviews we've had. I want to talk about the global agreement. We've submitted for reimbursement the $270,000 project of the floating dock. It's gone through City Finance, it's at CIP. I've spoken with Stephen Williamson, and he's going to send out an inspector to review the plans that were already approved 2-3 years ago when we put in the floating dock. So,
They're going to send an inspector
yes.
to review the plans that were previously approved.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And if I may, this is the first time we're submitting for reimbursement, so there's the global agreement did not provide any protocol for reimbursement, so I think we're kind of making it up as we go. And
We're not making it up. Somebody else is making it
yeah, that's true. So we're trying to close that loop and get the reimbursement as soon as we can.
The first 2 million went to the city,
That's correct.
they're holding it. What about the second 2 million?
I don't
They
have.
haven't paid any others. But after the campaign's over, I'm writing a long letter to the state. So, let's see what happens.
Next item is Crown Castle. The contract has been approved, and as a reminder, this is the cellular nodes that are coming in the park. Contract has been signed. We have received our $50,000 initial payment as a result, and we are going to have a second meeting this week, a site visit for placement of these light poles in the park.
All right. To review events through November of this year.
Sure. In your packet is a short list of events through November. We just had the Fan Fest, it was very well attended. That's the Formula One Fan Fest. On November 3rd, we have the Alzheimer's Walk, Light the Night Walk, Moving Day Miami, Warrior for Life, American Heart Walk, and then the holiday tree lighting the Friday after Thanksgiving. So it's
After?
Yes, the Friday, the day after Thanksgiving.
What day is that?
That is Friday, November 23rd.
Friday,
November 23rd.
Black Friday.
Audio.
So we usually have it at 7 p.m.
Black Friday, what's that?
Shopping.
Oh, shopping, the shopping.
the Friday after Thanksgiving.
That's Friday.
What day is Thanksgiving this year?
Thursday.
I have a couple of questions on the upcoming events and also on the past one. So Formula One Fan Fest, at our last meeting, we had not confirmed 100K was the figure that was being discussed. Is that the final figure for the
That is the
UC?
figure, yeah.
So that's what we got. for you.
Excuse me, ma'am, what was that 100,000?
Use fee for Formula One Fan Fest that took place Saturday and Sunday.
We wanted to pay 50, then 60, and they paid 100.
And it was also said at our last meeting that there was gonna be no park closure. But I noticed yesterday it was closed, today it's closed again. When are we reopening?
Yes, well, we should talk about what really park closure means. So there are parts of the park that are open. The center of the park where this event took place is the part that's closed. Tear down of this event should be complete tomorrow, and then we'll look at what sort of damages there are and work through that accordingly.
I wasn't able to come. I was busy doing TV commercials and matters. I'm sorry, but I would like to get some feedback from some of the neighbors that saw what happened in hear what kind of noise level you had. I don't know how much was done, maybe it was so little that, you know, you really can't get an idea of what's to come in the future, but any comments I'd like to hear. If you could stand up and just say your name and...
My name is Ken Schwartz. I'm a resident of downtown. And just in speaking with various other residents, I would say that the Fan Fest was generally well received. We feel that the noise was of limited duration, and not nearly as prohibitive as other events have been. I think the only issue that I think most people had to deal with was the traffic. But the noise level was generally, I mean, everybody has a different tolerance for noise, but generally I think the noise level was tolerable by most. And of course, the cars themselves are the most noisy element of the race. And they were running 1 or 2 cars down the street at any one time. So of course that's not a very fair proxy for what may come in the future when there is actually a legitimate race. But the Fan Fest themselves, I think, was enjoyed by a lot of Miami residents, a lot of local downtown residents, and generally well received.
Anybody else would like to express their feelings?
Barry, just kind of look at this game. My wife and I, we were there for the entire duration of the fest, and when it started, we were quite pleased with it. It seemed like they were adhering to everything that was expected of them. The setup was, they stopped right on time. The thing that we had an issue with, and it's somewhat different than Ken spoke to earlier, was the running of the car. This is 1 car, and the noise was incredible. And we have little monitors, noise monitors, on our phone, which they're not calibrated, and we're not sound engineers.
Well, they're
But
pretty
they're
good.
over 100 decibels, both of them, for the time the cars were going. That's 1 car. So, that was unacceptable. I think that was going to be an issue.
It was of limited duration.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the fest was fine.
But you were measuring at the street level. Did anybody?
We were on our balcony.
Okay, you were in the back. That was
Yeah.
going to be my question, was to measure from there.
Right. And I
Okay.
think actually, if I had to say so, I'd like to get this confirmed by an engineer or something. It's actually louder on our balcony than it is at the sea level.
Okay.
I'd say twice as loud, extremely noisy. The fest, I don't think that we would argue about in terms of having that, because it is limited duration to go to a movie or something. But to have that for a whole day or 2 days, or however long these races last, I think would be unbearable.
Yeah. How long is this supposed to last, you say? Is it a 2-day event, or?
This Fan Fest was,
No, the Fan Fest, what I'm saying, the races that they want to do.
The race in Austin started at, I believe, at 1:30. It was done by 3:30. It's like a two hours.
But is it a 1-day deal or a 2-day?
Well, they have some qualifications on Saturday and Friday.
So it's a 3-day.
And there's also practices involved.
Yeah, during the.
Well, look, the bottom line, I think that the one thing we could all be in agreement on, this is not going to be an ultra. Outside of that, I think we have to walk slowly. We have to be conscientious of all our neighbors here. I will say this to you, that this event truly is a worldwide event that brings in a tremendous amount of publicity to Miami. But that's not to say that if your life is going to be held too, that we have to force it upon you. So what I would suggest is that you get us involved as you possibly can. I would certainly do anything that you ask of me to try to set up meetings with you, with Formula One people, or whomever you need to speak to, so that we can try to resolve as much as we can as we go forward. And then I need your feedback in where you're at with this. Mr. Nico.
How long from the setup to everybody being out of here and the grass being replanted? How much time is it?
Solano?
That's still in the works. They're still looking at the route.
One of the biggest problems that I have is that from what they originally spoke to me about, I think it's going to be a whole different story because they're having problems with the bulk of their port that they wanted to do the racing through the port of Miami, or Port Miami as they call it now. So if that doesn't work out, I don't know what they're going to be doing and how much are they going to have to be going inside the park or parks. And so until that's resolved, you know, I'm going to be at a loss, you know, for what is really going to be, you know, the damage that we could possibly have.
Philosophically, I've been thinking about that a lot, and I think the fact that we don't have Ultra anymore is a good thing for the long term, for the park and the city. So I'm concerned that it's a different form of entertainment, if you will.
Yeah.
But if the park is shut down 3 weeks, give or take a few days, that doesn't make sense to me. And then you're gonna have to dig up, put a road through the park, replant the grass, deprive the public of the use of the park. They can't get across the street.
I agree, but the way that it was being looked upon before, there was only one small area that was going to be used of grass. For instance, they were going to come from Biscayne Boulevard, and the promenade that goes all the way to the fountain, the grass to the right of that, a little bit, I don't know if it was 30 feet, 40 feet wide, they were going to use it. Only that strip from Biscayne to where the round circle is, then they would go up to your left. We would be replacing some trees and planting them on the sides, but then there'd be no problem with grass in the future there. And then they would go out Bayside side. So the closure would be practically nothing, just that little area there next to the promenade, going to the fountain, about 40 foot wide or so. Maybe 50, I don't know, somewhere in there. Forgot how many feet it was. And that was it. But I have no idea what's going to happen now. Frankly, I wouldn't be open to much more than that in the park, because then it's going to be a real mess. Not to mention that I don't think they would want to do more than that because of the danger that their drivers would you know, meet. So that's where it's at. You know, and this is important because if it's not going to the port, that means they're going to be doing more in Biscayne, and you're going to get more noise. So
And more closures. I don't understand, but listen, we're doing the right thing by having that boat, ship, whatever the heck it is. We're getting good money for that, which is on the perimeter of the park. We're talking about doing the FEC slip now, and I'm sure there's many other things we can do. I don't understand. I just came back from New York, Boston, and Montreal. If no one here's been to Montreal, you gotta go. It's a fabulous city. But every great city has great parks. And this is our biggest park, and it's like a dumping ground for everything.
Well, you're absolutely correct. This is the real Central Park, not just for the city of Miami, but for all of greater Miami-Dade County. And nobody else helps us except us here. The whole county wants to use them, but nobody helps us. So I agree with you there. But the bottom line is that times have changed. You have thousands of people living across the street and thousands more that are going to be living there in the very near future. And we just can't run this park the way it's being run before, where it was shut down for so many days out of the year. And, you know, any snake oil salesman that had an idea and enough bucks to throw around to elected officials, bloggers, or anybody else would get to do whatever they wanted to do. So, having said that, is there any new business? No? Any further questions from the board? Anything else?
I do, I have.
Please.
Okay. The statue at Museum Park with the broken base has been this way for almost going on 2 years now. Now we're approaching November, it's a season where everyone's coming back into town. I find it a huge embarrassment. I know you had said capital improvements was looking at a possible solution, or we may remove it. But I really think that it's time to make a decision and do something about this. It's at the entrance of Museum Park, visible to everyone from Biscayne Boulevard, and it looks like a hot mess.
Who is that again? I'm sorry.
That's the floral sculpture, which is here. That is at between 8th and 9th Streets, right at the center of the
Yeah, right at the center, yeah.
I have a meeting with Stephen Williamson on November 20th, I want to say, so I will definitely bring that up.
Is that donated or did you pay for it?
It was donated to the city of Miami.
So there's no chance that's gonna get fixed like before Art Basel, because that's the first week of December.
I got it.
To be budgeted, because, you know, the only reason I may briefly jump in is because some years ago, I think I was tasked with researching that. So we own it, it was donated to the city, and maintenance generally follows ownership. So unless you can get the donor to say, I'll maintain this sculpture, it is yours to maintain, and that's it.
Right, so my question is, it's like a black marble base, how difficult it is to find the material that goes around it, or just take them all off and put matching material?
CIP has received a proposal to correct that, I believe it's $60,000. So that's something for the city to decide, and have to say either we fix it or we, take it away.
That statue, is it in museum parkland or city land?
It's a museum park.
All right. Ken, you want to address this again?
Yes. Good afternoon, Chairman, Acting Director Yep, and the esteemed board. We, in light of the recent ordinance that's being proposed by the City Commission, where the park must be used or must be free 85% of the time, the residents and the DNA have taken an opportunity to review the promoter's kit that has been published by the Bayfront Park Trust team. And we would like to propose a few revisions to those. We're not exactly sure if I can either read them into the record or I can provide you with a markup of that and submit it into the record. But we'd like you to consider these changes, which we believe will be consistent with where this where the commission would like to go with Bayfront Park and where this board would like to go with Bayfront Park. So I have a few annotated copies that I'll submit to yourself. Thank you, Ken. You're welcome.
We'll submit it to the record, and if we can bring it up for...
We're going to put it into the record.
Yes.
Yeah.
Then for the rest of the board members, I don't have additional annotated copies, but what I do have are summaries on a single page of the changes, and then for your convenience, I actually have the existing promoter's kit. So,
Ken, can you meet the executive director in this
yes, absolutely.
and see what you guys could agree to, then we can bring it back in November if you're ready, if not December.
I think
the quickest the better, I think, would be best. So if we could bring this back in the November meeting.
okay. It's easy for us to reach out to one another, so we'll set something up. I think that the changes are minimal, but nonetheless important to us, and I think we'll be able to have a good meeting of the minds and we'll bring this to the next meeting.
Thank you very much. We appreciate that. Hearing no further business for this board, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you all for coming.